Sports Bucks. Dray can't come out to play. Learn the HardEN Way. Jim Harbaugh. At home, coach must stay. So today, this is Sports Bucks with Steve, and we discuss these different factors that have now taken place in the NBA and the NCAA. Another Sports Bucks is on its way. Stay tuned. Buckle up. Let's go. Sports Bucks with Steve. Once again, my friend.
Sports Bucks with Steve takes a deeper dive into the world of sports and the impact of money, fan debates, current sporting news, and offers financial tips. Coach Steve is a certified financial fiduciary and wealth coach who specializes in retirement income tax-free strategies for individuals and business owners throughout the country.
That's right. Sports Bucks with Steve. Once again, we're back at it again, my friend, as we talk. This was not going to be a long one. We want to thank all of our sponsors. We want to thank Fig Wealth Partners. We want to thank RX Heroes, My Virtual Docs, Genesis Family Dentistry, Tax Doctor, ERC. Oh, there's so many. The Super Rolf, SuperRolf.com, IULs. Listen, folks. If you're putting money into a 401k and your company matches you, that's it. Put your money in a Super Rolf, which is an index universal life policy that can grow tax-free. What are we doing? You got all the risk is on you right now with your 401k. In the Roth, in the Super Rolf, all of that responsibility shifts to the insurance company. Isn't that why we buy insurance? For assurance? Come on, if you want to learn how to do this, son, the superroth.com, but you can also call us if you need someone to talk to. 1-800-306-5086. 1-800-306-5086. Call your boy, your host with the most, the wealth coach, Steve Crawford. Mr. MBA. Certified financial fiduciary, your wealth coach. And another one, but let's get into it, folks. Sports Bucks. What are we talking about? Let's talk about it real quickly. I want to go to the video. We're talking about right now James Harden inability to be a winning player when it matters. And right now the Clippers are in shatters, so to speak. They're in shatters. But before I do that, as I told you guys, I got to pay the bills, so please stay tuned. Do not turn. You might miss something you need. Let's take a listen to one of our sponsors called the Tax Doctor, and then we're going to do that. In fact, let's do Super Raw first. Super!
It's a bird!
It's a plane!
No, it's Super Roth!
Okay, a gimmicky opening for a commercial about Super Roth Universal Life Insurance, but I'm sure it got your attention. Now, what is a Super Roth, you ask? It's a permanent indexed universal life insurance that's totally liquid and easily accessible once it matures. Can be used to supplement retirement savings or a death benefit, or both. Has no income or contribution limit. Has no 5-year rule like Roth IRAs. Has no 10% penalty for accessing the funds before age 59 and a half. Oh, and the average historical returns are 5 to 7% annually. Tax-free. Super Roths also lock in gains, which means you don't lose your money when the market is down. Sounds incredible, right? Sounds super? Super Roths are the way of the future, specifically your future. To see if you qualify for a Super Roth, go online to thesuperroth.com.
Hi, my name is Lily. My mom and dad used to fight about money all the time. Then one day, I heard them talking about this guy, some uncle I never knew, called Uncle Sam. Well, they say this Uncle Sam guy wanted them to pay him like $1 gazillion, and they didn't have $1 gazillion. So they called this company they heard on the radio called the Tax Doctor. And the Tax Doctor worked with Uncle Sam's people. I think they're called the IRS. And they were able to work it out so my mom and dad didn't have to pay Uncle Sam very much money at all. So now mom and dad are happy, and I'm happy too. Thanks, Tax Doctor.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, call now and pay less.
Call 800-268-1055. That's 800-268-1055. 800-268-1055.
At it again. That's the Super Roth. That is Tax Doctor. We've got a new sponsor we'll play in a minute, Genesis Family Dentistry. Check out Dr. Stacy Alston, a Tar Heel graduate, doing some major things in the world of dentistry, especially with airways. But I want to go right into this conversation that I was saying about James Harden and the Clippers having to learn the HardEN way. And apparently Draymond can't come out and play. But let's take a look. And this video is courtesy of ESPN. You know how these videos sometimes play. They'll play and then they won't play. And so we're going to talk our way through it before they start trying to give us all these commercials that they want to add to this. But this is an important thing that I think we're looking at here when it comes to, and remember, if you guys are not, some of you have to remember that you're listening to it on podcast platforms. So you're not going to see the video anyway. But why isn't James Harden working in Clipper land? Well, James Harden doesn't work anymore as a professional basketball player, as a lead guy. He's just not working anymore. And I think that his style of play, he's very ball dominant, and he disappears really when you really need him. And so what we've seen with James Harden and the Clippers is that Harden tends to shrink when the moments get bigger and bigger. His choke job in the playoffs last year in Game 7 with Joel Embiid, both of them taking turns to be as small as they could be, is the reason why the 76ers went out again in the divisional round as opposed to being in the finals after they were literally up in that series with the but check this out. This is a video. Tim Legler and Greeny are talking about it on Get Up. I
mean, they haven't won a game since he got there, and the Sixers have looked much, much better. We've paid a lot of attention to that this week. I'm a little short on time because the football stuff is crazy. But people are asking, did the Clippers make a mistake bringing him in? Is this ever going to work?
I think it's a mistake because they didn't need it. Because the bottom line is this. If you buy into the Clippers as any sort of threat in the Western Conference, it's based around one thing, Kawhi Leonard's health. You already had enough to contend in the West because it's Denver and then everybody else. The Clippers were in that mix as constituted if you bought into Kawhi Leonard being healthy. So James Harden, for me, doesn't move the needle. In fact, I think it's the opposite of that, because they're just going to get slower and
ESPN Get Up
slower.
again.
And if he doesn't have the basketball in his hands as the primary playmaker, he doesn't do a lot on the court to help anybody. And the ball's going to be in Paul George's hands and Kawhi Leonard's hands, Russell Westbrook says. So how exactly does that help you other than maybe win a couple regular season games on a night Kawhi sits? That's about all you've done.
And not only is that the best you've done for yourself, but you've also created a chemistry problem because James Harden, and I'll give a lot of respect to Russell Westbrook, because Russ has basically decided to come off the bench. If you guys are not familiar and what have happened with Russell Westbrook, basically saying, listen, I'll come off the bench and play with the second unit. We're talking about a future Hall of Fame. Don't get me wrong. James Harden is going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's a former MVP of the league, so he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Hell, everybody gets in the Hall of Fame in basketball. It seems like it's probably the easiest hall to get in when you compare it to Major League Baseball, which is almost impossible. And you look at the NFL, where I think the hall might have to have levels in the hall. I don't know if that needs to start happening, where there's a room that only a certain players can go into where the others can't enter, like an additional pass you need because you're one of those ones. But that's another conversation for another day. But James Harden will be a future Hall of Famer. Russell Westbrook's another future Hall of Famer. Kawhi Leonard's a future Hall of Famer. Paul George is a future Hall of Famer. Coached by a coach that might be a future Hall of Famer in Tyronn Lue. And so you see this team and you're watching them implode. They haven't won a game with that talent since he showed up as a Clipper, where meanwhile the Sixers are one of the top teams in the East without James Harden. There's a correlation there. There's a cause and an effect. Harden has left. The Sixers have a better way of doing things, and the Clippers are learning the hard way. Listen, quick commercial. I want to give a shout out to my new sponsor, Genesis Family Dentistry. As I said before, doing some major things here in the Charlotte area.
Your children need sleep for proper development, and sleeping disorders like snoring or sleep apnea may be robbing them of the rest they deserve. At Genesis Family Dentistry, Dr. Stacey Alston not only provides the finest dental care, but free screenings to identify airway issues too. And your children can get screened for more issues, such as teeth grinding, thumb sucking, tongue ties, and more. Contact Genesis Family Dentistry, 980-292-8299. Online at genesisfamilydentistry.nc.com. Looking to protect your legacy and leave your family in solid financial health by establishing a living will or trust, but you're not sure where to start? At Big Wealth Partners, you can get comprehensive, budget-friendly wills and trust planning. Thanks to the powerful Estate Guru software, you get access to the attorneys you need anywhere in the nation. Wills and trust planning starts as low as $699, but with the promo code #SportsBucks, you'll get $100 off regular fees. Get started at FigWealthPartners.com.
And that's FigWealthPartners.com. That number is 1-800-306-5086, 1-800-306-5086. I'm going to tell you a quick little story about why we got interested in doing facilitating wills and trusts. We are not attorneys at Fig Wealth Partners, but we act as your consultant to the stars, proverbially the attorney stars that are licensed in all 49 states except Louisiana. So if you're listening to this show in Louisiana, we can't help you in that space. But I'll say this, one of the reasons why I got involved with these wills and trusts, before I talk about the lack of trust that Draymond Green is showing as a Golden State Warriors and how he can't be trusted to stay on the court. Nice. You see, I did that. But one of the things I will say is that my dad experienced a situation with a small estate that he has, but he made the decision years ago to, I think he was getting remarried. And so this is one of my reasons why we are offering affordable wills and trust, preferably a trust, because a living will, it doesn't avoid probate. And so if you guys are not familiar with probate, that means you're going to still have to go to court. Your last will and testament is not necessarily can be honored. But if it's in a trust, hey, it's going to go to the beneficiaries and it's going to do what it needs to do. Now, there's some other levels of trust planning. When you start talking about an irrevocable trust, we don't do that, but we can refer you to someone who does. And my attorneys don't do that, but I know attorneys who do. So, but I'll say I got involved in this because my dad, years ago, we finally got that resolved. But what happened was he decided to put his property in the name of his mom. And while he was getting remarried, he got some bad advice. In the meantime, my grandmother, who has since passed, she had a will that did not name the other property. So when they started doing, looking at probate, a family member of his, an actual brother, decides that, well, since the grandmother has died and she didn't, and he had hospital bills that, let's just say I'm not going to leave that one alone, but let's just say that there was some issues surrounding my grandmother's death. But this uncle decides to try to make my dad sue his property because he saw a technicality because of the will not naming that estate, saying, well, that's her son's property and she has no claims to that. Instead, it didn't do that. So it was ambiguous, and it allowed his and his attorney to try to enforce the sale of my dad's property to pay for medical bills. So that was a $30,000 plus lesson. And he finally got it resolved, but he had to go to an attorney and pay a lot of money to get this whole thing figured out and worked out. And so it's been sort of a passion play for me and my team now at Fig Wealth Partners to help people in a much, much, much more affordable way to get a revocable trust in place that will lay out what you need. So give us a call, 1-800-306-5086, or go online at Fig Wealth Partners. You can actually go online at Fig Wealth Partners, and you can actually schedule an appointment with me, and I'll help you work out the process. So I did want to play you one more of our new sponsors, Recovery.
Cover Now is a national campaign aimed at the education and awareness of the devastating effects of opioid and heroin abuse and curbing drug and alcohol addiction in the United States. Recover Now is sponsored by treatment facilities nationwide. Many of them have been where you are, and they want to help by spreading a message of hope and recovery. They're working hand in hand with major insurance companies nationwide that can help you or a loved one get clean in 7 to 30 days. Recover Now is embarking on a national outreach campaign on TV and radio to promote anti-addiction messages. So if you, a loved one, or someone you know has a problem with drugs or alcohol, do not wait. A new life for you could be 30 days away. Call us right now. I promise this call can change your life. Sponsored by the Detox and Treatment Helpline.
800-936-5087. 800-936-5087. That's 800-936-5087.
So that's obviously a new sponsor that, you know, if you've got a loved one that's dealing with some addiction problems or challenges, listen, call that number. That's discreet. It doesn't, you know, you can have a conversation with these folks to help you get or help that loved one get back on, if it's yourself or if it's a loved one, get back on the road to recovery. So Recovery Now, that number again is 800-936-5087. 1-800-936-5087. So make sure you give those guys a call. Also, can't forget U.S. Medical Supplies. That number is 800-628-7226. Again, that number is 800-628-7226. But I did want to, as before we come to the end of this show, I did want to talk about Steve Kerr had a message regarding to Draymond Green and his subsequent suspension of 5 games for his actions. And I was actually pleasantly surprised to see Steve Kerr not do the same coaches thing where they basically blame everybody but the player for his players' actions. So I was pleasantly surprised to see Steve kind of just say, hey, man, we need a more mature, a more, more mature reaction and player of Draymond Green. If it doesn't play, I'm not going to worry about it, but I'll just say, because I know some of you folks are listening, so you can't see the video, but he said he was pissed at Draymond Green for choking Rudy Gobert earlier in the week. He said he called the Golden State Stars' actions actually inexcusable. He went on to say, that Draymond, he took it too far. He was wrong. He knows that it's a bad look. So here's the video. Let's play it real quickly if I can pull it up.
I'm not talking about, getting an ejection and getting a technical. I'm talking about, a physical act of violence. I mean, that's inexcusable. And we have to do everything we can to give him the help and the assistance that he needs to be able to draw that distinction between being, an incredible competitor, which he's always been. It's why he's in the position he is. It's why he's the player he is. But he can't cross that line. And he crossed it the other night for sure.
And that video was courtesy of TMZ and the Golden State Warriors. And like you said, I agree wholeheartedly with what Steve Kerr had to say. You just can't have that. You can't have Draymond sort of went off and regardless of what we want to talk about as far as the old NBA and this and that, and I get that, but there are some things that I do agree with that the new NBA has sort of put into place. And I think that's a necessary thing that has taken place that the NBA had to orchestrate and put in and institute, I should say, and Draymond has to learn from it. Well, lastly, as we get ready to get out of here, folks, one of the things I did want to talk about briefly, and this is sad because you're seeing this happen more and more. It happened earlier in the year, with Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles literally in the first series the beginning of the season against the Buffalo Bills. And now we see Joe Burrow, who's arguably 1B as far as best quarterbacks, arguably one of the best players in the NFL. He's now out for the season with his, I believe it's either a wrist or hand injury that he suffered against the Baltimore Ravens the other night. And so he's done for the season. In that same game, Mark Andrews, one of the top 5 tight ends in the NFL, also went out off of a difficult play and a tackle that I think the NFL is trying to, take out of the game. But I don't know how you take out of the game. A guy's hustling, trying to grab a guy who's 270, 80 pounds. How you expect him to bring him down? I don't know. But I think that, the NFL has something to deal with when it comes to some of these major injuries. We've seen Trayvon Diggs go out, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the league early this season in practice. He tore his ACL, I think, an MCL. So the injuries are a part of the game. Unfortunately, we're losing some of the better players that affects the outcomes of some of these games. So if anything, we hope that we can have some health, wealth, and prosperity these guys playing, and that they will stay and play the game that we all love to see and not have all of these serious, significant injuries to the key players. Injuries are part of the game. I don't know how you take it out, but we sure would love to see these guys back in the NFL, back on the field, being healthy and competing at the highest level and getting a chance to go for the Super Bowl. So this is Sports Bucks with Steve from the home side of things. We appreciate you guys once again. We're signing off, and listen, enjoy the holidays, love each other, and that's all we got for now. We'll see you next week. God bless. God willing. We out.